For a snow or a beach scene, you may want to set the appropriate scene mode. For more control over the camera functions, you'll want to set the program mode. You may want to set the flash. I recommend setting the ISO, setting the exposure compensation, and as always, setting the white balance. If the subject in your scene is a person and he's taking up most of the frame, you'll want to look at the portrait scene movie instead. The snow and beach scene is geared more for pictures of people playing in the snow or on the beach, and not so much for close-ups of the person themselves. Let's start by setting the appropriate scene mode. Turn your mode dial to SCN. In the back, use the navigation buttons to move the highlighted field to snow or beach. It's on the second page. Go down and move over to beach or snow. Then press set. With the snow or beach scene profile selected, the camera is optimized for that situation, so you can simply take your picture as you would in any other mode. Place the focusing brackets over the subject, press the shutter button halfway to lock focus and exposure, then recompose the image so it's framed the way you want it on the screen, and then press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the shot. For more control over the functions, I recommend using the program mode instead. Turn your mode dial to the letter P. Like the auto mode, the program mode sets the exposure for you, but it gives you control over things like ISO and white balance. If there's a lot of light in your scene, you may want to reduce the shadows on your subject by using the flash. The auto flash will not work in this case because the camera assumes there's enough light in the scene, so it won't use the flash. Go ahead and press the flash button right here, then go down to Forced Flash On, then press Set. Now the flash will fire no matter what. Because there's so much light in the scene, you want to make sure the ISO is set to 80 to maintain the cleanest, smoothest image possible. Press the Quick Menu button right down here to access the Quick Menu. Move over to the ISO option and go down to ISO 80. Before I escape the Quick Menu, I want to move over to the white balance and set myself an appropriate white balance. For a snow or a beach scene, I recommend using the daylight white balance option. I'll go down to choose daylight. Now I can just press set to escape the Quick Menu. Because snow and beach scenes are so bright, the camera assumes it needs to darken down the exposure by a little bit. So what you need to do is compensate for that by setting the exposure compensation. Press the up navigation button or the exposure compensation button right here. Now use the right navigation button to increase the exposure compensation by 1/3 or 2/3 of a stop. You don't want to increase it any more than that. With the exposure compensation set, go ahead and press the set button to escape this function. Now with the flash forced on to eliminate shadows in my subject, my ISO is set to 80, my white balance is properly set to daylight, and my exposure compensation is slightly increased, I can go ahead and take my picture. Place the focusing brackets over your subject, press the shutter button halfway to lock focus and exposure, then, with the shutter button still pressed halfway, recompose the image. With the image composed the way you want it in the screen, you can then press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the shot.